Much like in seasons past, after taking a look at opening day and the state of our major league roster, we follow that up with checking in on the state of our minor league system, and it is going strong. We are still by far ranked as the number one farm system in the MLB with 16 top 100 prospects throughout the organization. And today we start the episode taking a look at the number one prospect in baseball, two-way generational star Neil Dorsey. This is not his first game of the season by any means. He has pitched one. He's gone 8 innings, 8 shutout innings, mind you, with a .38 whip, 5 strikeouts there. So very good start to the season. Hoping he can follow that up. Now, usually in this episode, I will go through the first pick in the previous draft, and we will still do that. I just wanted to start off with Neil Dorsey, as I know many of you are interested in his development, as of course am I. So we're going to watch his second start of the season first, and a couple of excellent pitches get him ahead of this count, 0-2. Going against Smith, not hitting even above the Mendoza line so far, and he goes down looking. 3 perfectly painted pitches on 3 separate parts of the zone. I mean, I can't imagine a better start than that. You got to get the calls on those for sure, but if you got an ump that will give you those calls, then that's about a perfect of a opening pitch sequence as you can get. Starting up with a changeup again, well located low and outside here for 0-1. Walls hitting 250 so far, so solid enough. Still very early on in the season, and again, maybe the most generous call of them all so far with that fastball. 0-2 pitch, and he gets him swinging on the sliders. 6 pitches, 2 strikeouts. What a start here for Neil Dorsey. Normally in these episodes, I only show the results of these at-bats, but as you can tell, this inning is being pitched just a little bit too well to not show you the entire thing. What excellent command to start this game from Neil. Also, you know, he's filling it with several different pitches. He's thrown some great curveballs, as you see there. The fastball's working, the slider. Got the last man chasing it. Can he go 9 straight strikes and 3 strikeouts in an inning? Not going to happen here. He does throw a ball. Still ahead of the count, though. 1-2, and swinging at the 98-mile-an-hour fastball, high and in tight, well outside the zone. Second time he got somebody to chase. What a start on the mound. Now, in terms of his early season hitting, we're only about 5 games in, so the sample size is small, but he's also hitting under the Mendoza line. That 2 home runs was boosting his OPS, but that single will certainly aid his average. That puts a man on first and second there. Nobody would score in the inning. So back up top of the second for his pitching, and gets the first out. The first out non-strikeout here, and another one. Kept in the infield. So 2 up, 2 down here very quickly. And the 0-0 pitch is popped up, and 6 pitches in the second inning is all it took to go through the order. Neil Dorsey is on an absolute heater to start this season. He's showing us that he might not be so far away, even as a pitcher. Now, the ratings maybe suggest that he needs more time, but, you know, pitchers, and honestly, everybody, don't always play to their ratings. Some play above them, some play below them. We've seen the case of kind of both here in this series. Neil Dorsey may be looking like a pitcher that plays above his ratings through the first 3 innings. Bottom 3, Neil Dorsey will be called for going around there. I don't know if I agree with the call, but it is what it is, so he strikes out there. back up for the fourth. And another strikeout on the edge of the zone. This is honestly the most impressive command I've seen in this entire series. So many pitches, even that one right there that will be down for his first hit, on the very edge of the zone, throwing a ton of strikes, and just all around excellent pitching here. This one lifted deep to left. That's probably the closest we've gotten to a big time extra base hit so far in this game, and a curveball will be another strikeout. What is that? 6 already through 4 innings for Neil Dorsey. Man is on a mission, only allowed 1 hit through 4 innings. Up to bat next, and he'll fly out right to left field. So 1 for 3 with a single so far, and a strikeout. In the 5th, Drew Jones trying to lay down a bunt, and he gets on first the coward's way. Of course, almost traded for him all the way back in Season 1. He's still in AAA these days. And then the curveball. What a pitch. The break on that one certainly fooled the batter there. And another fairly generous call. That's not a call you're going to get every umpire to call for you, but it is a strike indeed. Hernandez lifts this to left field. That's going to be a 2-run homer, and it honestly felt like a homer was the only way that the Aces were going to score today with how well Dorsey has been pitching. He's been so good with the command here, but left one to hit in this scenario, and it got crushed. Of course, home runs per 9 is his lowest attribute, so you got to watch out for that. You know it's always going to be something that's going to be a bit of a problem at any moment in a game. But don't let, the bunt into the homer take away from just how good he's been so far. Runners on the corners, full count here. Very big scenario. Could take the lead or tie here. Instead, it's going to be grounded into a double play. The one thing we just could not have him do is exactly what happens. Dorsey back up. Almost got that through the infield. Oh, sorry. Dorsey's back up to pitch. What am I talking about? So it's a ground out to start the inning there into another strikeout here in the 6th. Looking to rebound after giving up 2 innings in the 5th, and he does it. A very clean 6th inning for Neil Dorsey. Continues his strong pitching effort. He would come out for the 7th here. I think that's a good choice. Don't let the 2 runs scored, subtract from how good he has been here. Starting to leave stuff a little bit more over the middle, though. A couple straight flyouts. Not, getting charged for it. Drew Jones, though, lifts this one deep to left center. And if you keep hanging him over the middle, you eventually will give up the big hits. Jones bunted in a run last time. Bunted himself on base to get eventually for a run. He didn't bunt in a run himself, of course. But now has accounted for 2 of the 3 Reno scores with that long shot. And another one into the outfield. So 3 flyouts and a home run into the 7th. Maybe starting to see Dorsey's command slip, and I wouldn't mind him being done in this game. He would get a second hit in this one as well. So a multi-hit game, 7 innings pitched, as he would not come out for the 8th. I think a very solid game for Neil. Of course, would love to see him show off the power a little bit, but there's always next time for that. And the Isotopes would end up with a victory, courtesy of a Cole McCracken save. So, no loss on the board for him either in this one. Apart from a couple homers, really, really impressive start for Neil Dorsey. But unfortunately, you can't just erase the homers because they are very important. But especially through those first 4 innings, the command he showed today was about as good as I've ever seen it here in the series for any pitcher at any level. I want to take a look at his pitch mix, something I don't do, I think, nearly enough. I wish I did more. But for the most part, he was good. Had at least 65 strike percentage on all of his pitches today. Threw 46 fastballs, 17 curves, 7 sliders, 9 changeups. I want to see his strikeouts. It never told me how many he had. 9 strikeouts, 4 with the fastball, 4 with the curveball, 1 with the slider. So just some excellent pitching. Got a lot of guys to chase. A lot of these strikeouts are outside the zone. So let's transition now to the guy we just took with a top 5 pick in the most recent draft, and that is Juan Rocha, a first base / left fielder. Getting a first look at his batting stance and things, and he swings on the first pitch. Not what you'd expect from a guy maybe with 70 discipline. And one thing I want to do a little bit more when we go into these player-focused portions of episodes is show you entire at-bats. Yes, I can show you the results of at-bats, but we can get through multiple games in about 30 seconds real time doing that. So I think it's worth it to maybe slow it down a little bit and show you these players' processes, how they go through at-bats rather than just how they end. So it'll also make our player-focused time with them last a little bit longer, give us a little bit more time to talk about them. Juan, of course, a lefty bat, something that we don't have a ton of here in the organization, so happy with that. I also really love his little pre-swing, his little practice swing there. Kind of combines a couple of pre-swings together. There he draws a walk, and now the bases are juiced. What a time this would be to get the first career hit for Juan Rocha. Down 3-1. A grand slam would be even better, but I'd take just a base hit that would bring across a couple of runs, if I'm being honest. We've got Kellington with 68 pitches, so he's probably still got some juice left in the tank. Not going to be a factor, I don't think, stamina, although a lot of pitchers do have stamina in the 60s in this game. Good take there, evens the count at 2 apiece. Rocha searching for his first career hit. This would be an excellent time to get it. But for the second time this episode, one of our stud prospects grounds into a double play instead. Turns out it wouldn't matter much as the pitching in this game was absolutely horrible. Anton Hernandez was the starter. He did not great, but not terribly. But once we subbed him out, JJ Ramirez, who we took in the 6th round of this last class, was atrocious. I think he allowed 4 runs and didn't even make it through an inning. So this game is mostly over, but can we get the first professional hit for Juan Rocha? Kind of what we're looking out for here. Fouls off the 4-seamer to make it 2-2. Fouls off another one. Battling well here. Just looking for a pitch to hit. And trying to check the swing, but it was inside the zone. So Rocha goes down. Let's watch a second game here. See if we can't get his first hit. Batista on the mound. Luckily, we're facing a couple of righties. He is much better against righties, which you would expect, of course, from the lefty bat. In the 60s for both his contact and his power. This one hit well, but not going to drop in for a hit. At least that was the first time he hit a ball decently hard. 2 gone and 1 runner in scoring position here. Bottom of the 3rd. And Rocha bring home a run here. Got a nice pitch there on the first one, but sometimes those high discipline players won't swing regardless. Although, to be fair, he did swing on the first pitch he ever got. Back in the first game, this is a tapper. Pitcher covering the bag just beats Juan. So we'll continue to wait. Yard Goats now down 5-2. Runner on first, no outs for Juan, 0 for 2 today. And there it is, Cortez into scoring position. Our two backup outfielders, Carlos Cortez and Alex Reyes, are actually our best base runners. And I say backup, I mean that's their long-term projection. Right now, of course, they're both starting for our AA team. But once they get to the MLB level, we could have some potential pinch runners with them, which could be exciting. For guys like Jordan Beck and Zach Veen, who maybe aren't the best base runners. Good take there from Rocha. Gets him ahead of the count. We at least see another walk. If not a hit, I'd still, of course, prefer the hit in this scenario. Fouls off another. That'll bring the count full. Definitely seeing the discipline here from Rocha. Not swinging at a lot of the bad stuff. There, he's getting a hit. The first professional hit for Rocha almost leaves the park. Instead, it'll bang off the wall. And an RBI double for Rocha here, bottom of the 6th. Always fun to see some of our better prospects' first professional milestones. Getting both his hit and RBI firsts. Here, he's back up one more time here, bottom of the 8th. Another RBI opportunity with a runner in third. After Cortez just hit a triple before him. Probably not going to win this game, but we get a multi-hit performance. Wouldn't find me complaining about that. Curveball hanging, was a little bit inside, but still thought you could have turned on that. 0-2 pitch is in for strike 3. Maybe a little too patient there from Rocha. I'd like to end off the episode just giving my initial thoughts of the draft class. I, of course, showed the draft class a little bit in the live stream at the tail end of it, but actually having some time with it now as it's that point of the regular season to start scouting, I've got to say this has the potential to be a pretty rough class for us. I have a couple of outfielders here in the top 15, but it's another very reliever-heavy top of the class. Now, all the relievers look really good. I'd say you see some of these overall and potential ranges, and yeah, they're tight, but I mean, Prado guaranteed to be in the 70s overall. That's very intriguing. Davila here, another guy who has a very good chance to be in the 70s overall. Blanco, very good chance to at least be in the 70s. Hayes, another guy guaranteed to be in the 70s. And so some really good closers, and there's actually a couple of really good relievers here. Santiago and Gomez look to be guys that are going to start in the 70s at least. And if you take a look at a guy like Gomez, his per nines, his strikeouts and his walks are guaranteed to at least, at the very least, be high 70s, but very likely to be in the 80s off rip. So, of course, I'm not going to be looking at reliever at 3. That's too high for me, especially when, you know, while we have a lot of good players, I'm not going to say that we have a perfect player at every position yet. So 3, definitely looking for a position player or a lefty pitcher, probably. More leaning towards maybe a position player there. But 35 and 40, we'll see how many of these relievers and these closers go in the first round. But if they don't, we can snag 2 of these players at 35 and 40. I'm going to be very happy with that. Now, of course, if we end up discovering some great players, those could be discovery picks as well, or maybe even, this is less likely, but players, you know, down the board, MLB, like a Alexis Reyes or a Esteban Valido or somebody, you know, that's down the board by MLB. Typically, I don't have very much time to scout those players, but we'll see if that changes this year, because honestly, the guys projected to go in the first round, I don't like very many of them. Geraldo Feliz is the #1 player, and we're going to be scouting him. Might as well just put him on the board right now. He's going to be at least 75 overall. We'll see if that holds true after scouting him. Could be one of those older players. I've yet to see one in these draft classes, but MLB The Show did add some of these older prospects, at 22 is an example that start, in the upper 80s or sometimes even in the 90s overall. So could this be a guy who has, 86 overall already? So we'll scout him to see if he is one of those prospects. I've yet to see one, so I don't know really how to identify them. But if he is one of those players, that would be a sick pick at 3, obviously. But if it's not, then we'll have to look elsewhere. And just looking elsewhere, there's not a ton of other guys. I will say this year, I'm looking for tighter spreads. I'm looking for guys that can come in and play pretty early, even if I have to sacrifice A potential. If I can get a high B potential guy, then I'll take it. I think we have our fair share of guys that are going to take a while, and I also just think this draft is going to lean towards that. Like Rico Salazar, definitely going to be somebody who's very unlikely to have A potential, but if he could start in the 70s, I'd be down for it. A lot of these guys that are further along in their spreads just don't really look interesting to me. So there you have that. I think catcher, there's a couple of interesting prospects here, but not a lot that after my initial review, I'm very excited to scout here if I'm being honest. So could be either a pitcher heavy class or just a weak class in general for us this year. In terms of starters, I mean, there's only 2 in the top 10, and they're both going to be bad. Buford Graham's going to have the same overall and potential, and Nunez is only going to have his potential 5 higher than his overall. So only 2 starters in the top 10, and they're both going to suck. That's unfortunate. Locke is kind of the first guy that could be good, and then Hidalgo, another guy with only an 8-point spread. 14's fine. So you're seeing, I just think the top of the pitcher class isn't good. The top of the position player class isn't good. The relievers are excellent. So there's something there, but we're not really looking reliever at 3. Maybe if our first pick was in the 20s, I would consider a reliever at that point, but not at 3. So I'm thinking this is a class that's going to either have to lean heavily on discovery, or it could just be not a very strong class for us. Of course, that could all change once we actually start scouting, and we'll see if that does become the case. I'm actually going to start just after looking. This is very unusual. I usually don't scout East at all, but that's actually going to be the first region that I'm going to scout here. I just think East has some of the more interesting prospects in it. So we'll be doing starting pitcher East, discovering pitcher East, and scouting Geraldo Feliz here in the first week of our scouting. And for this, I actually don't mind having a closing pitcher again. For this week, I think we're just going to put it on right fielder to help with Geraldo Feliz. And then once we find a position group that we really like, I know I'm probably going to scout a couple of catchers, so I'll probably have it there at some point. Don't really like much of the infielders. I think there's a couple interesting catchers, a couple of interesting outfielders, but that's kind of it for the position players. So I know there's one potential shortstop that I want to scout. He's going to be terrible defensively, but one of the things we are still looking for is that leadoff hitter that has the contact, the play skills, and the speed. He has that. Can you draft as somebody that's that poor at fielding at 3? That's going to be kind of a tough sell. So I don't know. This is my favorite infielder of the class. That tells you what this class is looking like. But it is what it is. You can't have a strong class. I think we've been blessed so far in the series. I think probably last class was the weakest class that there was. Maybe the Jose Barreto class as well. But we've been able to find the good players in those classes. Gonna have to be another year where we find the good players in a bad class. I think this year it's not one of the strong classes that's gonna, I think, give us a ton of very good. options. Do want to just show here something I haven't been doing a lot is this future projection, just so we can kind of maybe see a projection of how these guys might develop. And this year maybe not looking so good for us, but if you look even just 1 year down the road, I think this team could start to look really good. Of course, DH would not be Logan Cerny, but just fast forward 1 year from now, we could be talking about a Brian Doe, Clemente Herrera, Zach Veen outfield, Sterling Thompson, Rafi Murillo, Kyle Brown, Omar Figueroa infield, Solace catcher. We of course know all those things, but pitcher, we could be talking about Dolander, Barreto, Dorsey would also of course be our DH, Ungerer, Reyes lineup. I don't know if all these projections are going to hit because some of these guys are projected to go up a lot. Like Barreto up 7 overall this year. I mean, I would not complain at all. I don't know if you can count on that though. It's also projecting like Rich Walsh to go up 7 overall this year. That's, you know, pretty optimistic, I would say. But maybe this could be the kind of lineup we're looking at 2 years from now for sure. I think would be very reasonable. So the upside of this team, I think the playoff upside of this team is not very far away. I think we are getting ever so closer to being a team that I think can compete for the division title. Of course, very tough division to compete in. But if you take a look at, say, 2030 projections, now all of a sudden things are looking really nice. But we'll see if we can get there. Of course, development always depends on how the player performs, not so much just their potential. So with that being said, I am ready to finish off the episode. 5-3 in AAA, 3-6 here. Pretty bad week. You know, we split that series against the Dodgers, then got swept by Tampa Bay, and now we are in the middle. Let's actually just finish this series against Miami. I don't want to simulate through the day because I want to look at this class more. So instead, we will do this, simulate. And we do win against Miami, so we'll be 4-6, and we've tied a series, got swept, and won a series so far. So not a terrible start at all. And that's going to wrap up what I've got here for this episode. We'll be back soon with more Rockies franchise, and until then, go Rockies.